All right, welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by taking you somewhere a little different,
Okay.
right into your own kitchen.
My kitchen. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. Think about that jar of tahini that's probably, sitting in the back of the fridge
Right. For hummus, maybe.
for hummus, for
Yeah.
drizzle on vegetables. It's a
Yeah.
staple, right? From Cairo to Toronto, it's just there. It's made from sesame seeds.
Yeah.
Simple, ancient.
Harmless. You would think so.
And that's exactly where the illusion breaks. Because the source material we're digging into today, this whole stack of reports from around February 2026, suggests that the jar in your fridge is, well, the end product of a weapon system.
A weapon system. See, when I read that in the prep notes, I thought, okay, that's just dramatic writing. But you're saying this isn't a metaphor.
No, it is not a metaphor. The central thesis we are looking at concerns the Horn of Africa, specifically a corridor. It's known as Al-Fashaga and Wolkate. And the argument is that sesame is no longer just a crop. It has been transformed into and I'm quoting here, economic weapons system, a war currency.
Effectively a war currency.
That's a heavy concept to wrap my head around. So on paper, we're talking about farmland,
Right.
dark soil, seasonal rains, farmers planting seeds.
That's what it should be.
But the reality is
The reality is what the source material calls a security landscape.
that security landscape, not farmland.
Not farmland, no. The source makes this distinction very, very clearly. It says controlling the harvest in this corridor is no longer about agriculture. It's about controlling power.
We're used to thinking about people fighting over land,
Mm-hmm.
Territory, borders, planting flags.
Right.
But what you're saying is we need to unpack how they're fighting with the stuff that grows on the land.
Exactly. And that is a fundamental shift.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because usually when we talk about conflict resources, it's, blood diamonds, oil, maybe gold,
Sure. High value stuff.
high-value, low-volume stuff. But sesame, it feels surprisingly fragile for a war chest. It spoils, it's bulky, you have to process it.
It is fragile, but it's also uniquely lucrative in this specific context. And to understand why, we really need to do a map check. We have to look at the geography of the prize here.
The where explains the why.
The where explains everything.
Okay, so orient us. We're in the Horn of Africa. Where exactly are we zooming in?
We are focusing on the Al-Fashaga-Wolkate corridor. Now, you have to break that down into two distinct but very connected parts.
Okay.
First, you have Al-Fashaga. This is a fertile triangle right along the Sudan-Ethiopia border.
And this has been a trouble spot for a while, hasn't it? Even before the recent stuff.
For decades. The International Crisis Group actually describes the standoff there as inherently dangerous.
Inherently dangerous.
Yeah. It's a classic colonial hangover. On the map, the treaties say it's Sudan.
Yeah.
But on the ground, for generations, it's been farmed by Ethiopians.
Oh, I see.
So you have these sovereignty claims, this is my country, mixed up with livelihoods, this is my farm.
And now you have soldiers on top of it.
Exactly. You have militarized deployments sitting right on top of those farmers.
Okay, so that's the border triangle. What's the second part?
Wolkate.
Well, Kate and the town of Humera. Now, this is inside Ethiopia, and it's known as the Sesame Belt. The sources don't just describe it as a farm zone. They call it a strategic economic corridor.
Why does this one specific patch of dirt matter so much? Is the soil just that good?
The soil is excellent, yes. It's this deep, black, cracking clay. It's called vertisol. It holds water beautifully in a hot climate.
But it's not just the soil.
It's the location. It's everything. It sits at this intersection of unresolved borders, unresolved civil conflicts, and, deep local versus national pride. It's a crossroads.
Like a flashpoint.
A persistent flashpoint. That's a term the Council on Foreign Relations uses. They note that Al-Fashaga really reignited during the war in northern Ethiopia.
So it's a powder keg.
It's a powder keg that prints money. And here is the aha moment from that February 2026 article. Why do the fighters, the commanders, the generals, the militias care so much about farming? I assume they need to eat. Or is it about selling it?
It's the liquidity. The source explains the economic logic perfectly. Sesame is the easiest export commodity to turn into money. And fast.
Hard cash.
Hard currency. You have to remember, in this region, both in Sudan and Ethiopia, the local currencies are under immense pressure. Inflation is through the roof. Hard currency dollars, euros, dirhams, it's incredibly scarce.
War is expensive.
War is very expensive. It has a high burn rate.
Right.
Exactly. You need to pay soldiers or they desert. You need fuel for the trucks, for the tanks. You need to buy loyalty from local elites.
And weapons.
And critically, you need to buy drones and arms on the international market. You can't buy a drone with an inflating local currency. You need dollars.
So the sesame seed basically acts like a coin.
It acts like a bank. Whoever controls the sesame harvest controls the liquidity. The source lists exactly what this sesame money buys.
Okay.
It's cash for payrolls. That keeps the troops happy. It's fuel. It's patronage networks. It covers transport costs.
It's the engine room of the conflict.
Precisely. And the scary part here is the sustainability. The expert analysis in the source points out that this revenue stream allows military capacity to be sustained long after the ideology has
Thinned out. Right. So even if the soldiers don't really believe in the cause anymore, or diplomacy has completely stalled, if the money's flowing from the harvest.
The war machine keeps running. It becomes self-perpetuating. The conflict isn't just about winning anymore. It's about keeping the revenue stream alive.
That is just, it's terrified pragmatism. It's not about winning hearts and minds. It's about securing the harvest.
It converts farms into fuel depots for conflict. That's the line from the source that just stuck with me.
So let's get into the mechanics of this. How do they actually do it? Am I supposed to be imagining soldiers just like running into fields and stealing bags of seeds? Is it that crude?
Sometimes it is that crude, sure, you have raids, but the source argues it's much more sophisticated than that. It's about controlling the value chain.
The value chain. So everything from the soil to the port.
Right. It's not just theft, it's administration. They call it the mechanics of control, and it's rarely announced as some formal sesame policy. You know, you're not going to see a press release.
Of course not.
But control is exercised through a combination of bureaucracy and force. Think about it. Who gets to plant? Who's allowed to hire labor?
I see. So if you're a farmer, you can't just go out and farm. You need permission.
You need a license. You need a permit to drive your truck on the road. You need access to the storage depots in Humera. If you don't have the stamp from the guy with the gun, your crop rots.
And I'm guessing you have to pay for all of those privileges.
You pay at every single step. You pay fees, you pay taxes, or, you just get robbed if you don't have the right protection. And the source mentions that security itself becomes an economic instrument.
What does that mean? Security as an economic instrument.
It means that things like checkpoints, permits, convoy escorts, these anti-smuggling campaigns, they aren't just there to keep people safe.
They're collection points.
They're toll booths.
So the checkpoint isn't about safety. It's a revenue generator.
Exactly. Once that language of security enters the marketplace, the sesame stops behaving like a civilian good, like something you make hummus with, and it starts behaving like a conflict commodity.
It's a shakedown economy.
It is. It's coercion. The harvest is monetized by capturing the land, by diverting transport, and by extracting rents. If you want to move your crop to the border to sell it, you pay the network.
This creates a really dark cycle, doesn't it? Because farming relies on seasons. Nature doesn't wait for peace treaties.
And that's the violent feedback loop. The source notes the tragic irony here. The agricultural calendar has become the operational calendar for military actions.
Wait, so you're telling me harvest time is fighting time?
Exactly. Harvest windows create predictable surges. Suddenly, there's a massive amount of value just sitting in the fields or moving on the roads, and that movement creates targets.
That makes a horrible kind of sense. If you want to hurt your enemy, you don't attack when the fields are empty. You attack when the trucks are full.
Right. A convoy that gets interdicted becomes a grievance. A seized warehouse becomes a major strategic objective. It's high stakes because the money is right there. It's physical. It's movable.
It sounds like the war literally wakes up when the crop is ready.
It does. And the political justification follows the money. The expert points out that border skirmishes are often used as a justification to hold territory for protection at exactly the moment when the crop is most valuable.
Protection.
You move your troops in to protect the farmers, but what you're really there to do is secure the asset.
That is grim. Okay, but we need to zoom out. This source is from February 2026. It's painting a picture that goes beyond just this one corridor. It talks about a wider web.
Right, and this is where it gets really messy. The sesame geography isn't in a vacuum. It's sitting inside a regional transformation. We have to look at how this conflict is being internationalized.
Let's start with Sudan. There's been a brutal war there. How does the sesame tie in?
Well, the source points to reporting from the Financial Times. They've covered how Sudan's warring parties, the SAF and the RSF, are relying on resource capture.
Because the state has basically collapsed.
When the state revenue collapses, the tax base is gone. The central bank is paralyzed. So where do you get money? You sell what you can grab. Gold is one, but cash crops like sesame are huge.
It's a funding artery.
It's a critical funding artery.
Yeah.
So agriculture is now embedded in the business logic of the war in Sudan.
But it's not just internal to Sudan, is it? The source mentions some specific allegations involving other countries. And I want to be clear here, we're just reporting what the source material says.
Correct. We're just looking at the impartial reporting on the ground, and this is the external layer the source discusses. As of February 2026, there were reports specifically from Reuters alleging that Ethiopia was hosting a secret training camp for Sudan's RSF in western Ethiopia.
Okay, and they cite sources for that, I assume.
They cite multiple sources and satellite imagery. Now, connected to that, the report also mentions alleged involvement from the UAE.
And we should note, the source is explicit that the UAE has denied this.
Yes, the UAE has denied it, absolutely. But regardless of the specific truth of every detail, the significance is structural. It signals this deep cross-border entanglement.
It's all getting mixed together.
You have Sudanese factions allegedly training in Ethiopia, potentially funded by external powers, all swirling around these resource-rich borderlands.
It seems like the borders are becoming suggestions rather than lines.
They're porous. And it's not just Sudan and the UAE. The source also brings up Eritrea.
Right, I saw that. Rising tensions there.
Yeah, both Reuters and AP reported on rising tensions between Ethiopia and Eritrea. Ethiopia accused Eritrea of aggression, of backing armed groups. Eritrea then withdrew from IG-80, the regional bloc, and the UN was calling for restraint.
It feels like everyone is getting involved. This isn't a local skirmish over a fields anymore. It's a regional power struggle.
That's the point. It's what the source calls a systemic war. You have multiple armed actors, porous borders, everyone is under financial stress, and you have external patrons.
And they are all converging on this one export commodity.
They're all converging on this commodity because, again, it's cash. It's the one thing that can keep the lights on and the guns firing.
The source has a great line on that.
Which one?
It said they are converging on an export commodity that can be turned into cash faster than diplomatic solutions can be negotiated.
That's it. It's a depressing race. The cash moves faster than the diplomats.
Always. Money moves at the speed of light. Diplomacy moves at the speed of a committee meeting. So, okay, let's talk about the narrative versus the reality. If I turn on the news in this region or read the official government statements, what am I hearing?
You're hearing about sovereignty, you're hearing about national dignity, territorial integrity, counter-smuggling operations. It's all very high-minded language about the state and the people.
But underneath all that?
Underneath that, the decisive feature is liquidity. In a war economy, liquidity is power. The expert in the source argues we need to stop listening to the speeches and start watching the trucks.
When a crop becomes a currency.
A field becomes a strategic asset. When a corridor becomes a bank, armies posture around it.
It really changes what war even looks like, doesn't it? We have this movie idea of war flags, declared front lines, big offensives.
And that's the dangerous scenario the source warns about. The risk isn't necessarily a declared interstate war with a formal start date. It's a grinding sequence of incidents.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Death by 1,000 checkpoints, raids, checkpoint battles, seizing a depot here, shelling a road there. And it's all timed to the harvest. Each round reshapes who controls the value chain.
And every time you escalate, de-escalation gets harder.
Much harder, because the economic prize gets larger. If you hold a mile of road, you control the taxes on that mile. Giving it back isn't just a strategic retreat, it's a loss of revenue. You're bankrupting your unit.
That makes peace incredibly expensive. If you make peace, you lose your income.
It does, and remember, every stakeholder has a story to justify it. Sudan can say it's about sovereignty. Ethiopia can say it's about protecting an economic lifeline. Local militias can say they're protecting their communities.
But they are all financing themselves through the same commodity rents.
All of them.
Yeah, there was a phrase I saw in the notes. Someone called it bloody hummus.
Cuss. Yeah, the source brings that up. It's a consumer-facing metaphor.
It's catchy. Sounds like a hashtag.
It is catchy, but the expert in the source dismisses it. Says it's too cute.
Too cute.
Yeah, it trivializes the complexity. Bloody hummus makes it sound like a simple boycott issue. Like if you just stop buying it, the war stops.
And the reality is colder.
The reality is much colder.
So what's the better framing?
The better framing is that tahini is becoming a downstream product of coercion. Sesame is a war currency. The battlefield is the breadbasket itself. It isn't about the dip on your table, it's about the fact that the corridor has become a bank.
And the global market is hungry for sesame, and the warlords know it.
They absolutely do. We have to realize that in fragile regions, anything that can be exported can be weaponized.
It's a sobering thought. We started with that jar in the fridge. And the whole mission of this deep dive was to see how that jar connects to a checkpoint in the Horn of Africa.
Hmm.
And I think we've done that. It's not just fighting over the land, it's fighting with the harvest.
And that is the shift in mindset that I think you need to take away from this.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one last thought from the source material. It's a question, really. And it's one of those that it might keep you up at night.
Go for it.
The source asks us to consider this. Sesame is becoming a war currency. The battlefield is the breadbasket. So look around your own kitchen. How many other innocent commodities in your pantry are quietly funding a war?
A question worth asking.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you next time.